to talk to with him, getting into Matthew Stafford and more. And Andy Reid is here as well. Of course, he got the great news last week that his quarterback Patrick Mahomes is working through his rehab and has started throwing the ball again. Big Red got the nice Hawaiian shirt going today. Robert Kraft just arriving here, leading the owners through this week's league meetings. Lots of discussions about the league's negotiations with the referee union. Adam Schefter joining us with the latest there. And Raiders owner Mark Davis making the trip this week as his franchise owns the first overall pick in next month's NFL draft. There's going to be a lot of conversation around that. People are climbing Camelback out here. That's not Camelback, though, just in case you're wondering. Who will the Raiders take? All right, we'll get the answer in just 24 days when the draft kicks off in Pittsburgh. Our own Matt Miller released his latest mock draft. Today, Indiana's Fernando Mendoza remains the top projected pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Mendoza threw an FBS high 41 touchdown passes, just 6 interceptions last season, en route to a Heisman Trophy and national championship. And a lot of people think that's what's going to happen. We're going to see the Raiders take Fernando Mendoza. The good thing is we have the Raiders GM, John Spytek, right here. So as Peter Schrager and I sit here, I mean, maybe we could break some news and just go ahead and solidify it right now. Are you ready to do that? Or you want to wait a little bit here? You're going to have Mendoza come visit next week, it sounds like. So how would you describe just what it's like talking about this number 1 overall pick and then how likely it is that it'll be Fernando Mendoza?
No breaking news today. And it's the question everybody wants to know, but I'll just keep saying the same thing. We've got a process. We're going to follow it, and we're going to make the best decision we can for the Raiders.
He does have a pro day this week. Do you plan on attending that pro day in Bloomington, Indiana? And what do you want to see from Fernando if you do go there?
Well, we will be there. I think it's prudent that we go to all the touch points that we can to see all the great players that are out there. And, you know, I think at any pro day you just want to see guys compete and show up and be there for their teammates and put their best foot forward. And I've been to a lot of great pro days in my career. I remember a lot of them, the best ones I've ever been a part of. Mostly when you go see these quarterbacks, they do an elite job.
It's a show.
It's a show, and it's scripted, and they know exactly what they're doing and where they're throwing it. And most of the time you walk away being like, that was a pretty good pro day.
I do want to ask, though, because we were at the Combine, and he said it in his media availability. He got a chance to FaceTime with Tom Brady during his 15 minutes with you guys, and he was just geeked out. He was so excited about it. That connection and having the greatest quarterback of all time, having an input in this thing, you have to think that's going to play a role in who the next quarterback for the next 10 years for this team will be.
Well, we would be a fool if we didn't use Tom and his expertise in that level to help evaluate the quarterbacks. And I think that Fernando's love of Tom's game and the fact that he was, that was his favorite player growing up is a nice side note to that too. But, we got a big job to do here, and there's going to be a lot required of any quarterback in the NFL, and certainly a lot required of a Raiders quarterback, knowing who one of our owners is.
You're going to get to spend more time with him, right? But in your dealings with Fernando Mendoza and conversations with him, what about him makes you think that he can be a franchise quarterback?
Well, we've got a long way to go there, Laura, but I just love the way he competes, and there's a lot of guys on that Indiana team, and they didn't go 16-0 because Fernando was there. They've got a lot of great players. They're a great team atmosphere in that group. You can feel it when you're around the team. I got a chance to go watch them play a couple times this year, and it's just fun to watch that and witness that and be a part of things like that.
The Crosby deal obviously was a whirlwind, and for us on television for a week we're dissecting. I can only imagine your vantage point, and yet the day after it comes undone. He's in the facility. He's working. Where do we move forward with Max Crosby now?
All things forward. He's still a Raider. He never wasn't a Raider. And the day he got back, he had a great conversation with Clint. I visited with him for a little bit. We've always had open and honest conversations, Max and myself in particular. And we expect him to get healthy here. He's working his tail off to do that. He'll be ready to roll at the start of training camp, and we expect him to have a lot of good years of football left for us.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I mean, you accumulated some great players in free agency. You made a lot of incredible moves. What have the conversations been like, maybe even with Max, about that? Like, he comes back to a team that looks totally different in a positive way.
Well, we had a plan, and regardless of whether the trade was made or not, we had a lot of cap space. We had a lot of cash that was given to us by the owners to be intelligently aggressive is one of the things that we were talking about in our personnel department and our meetings with our coaches, to target the right kind of players that we could kind of build this thing the right way going forward. Critical positions, youthful guys that have a long runway ahead of them, and like Clint said the other day, we got an elite pass rusher the next day, too. So
it's a nice added bonus.
Yeah.
You go through the Combine with the group together, and now this meeting now. What have you learned about Clint Kubiak over the last 40 days that you guys have had all this time together?
Well, we see the game of football pretty similarly. Different enough that we can have some constructive and fun conversations. But, he's just a really thoughtful person. He's disciplined in his approach. He knows what he wants, but he's a great partner too. We bounce ideas off each other. He's up not bothering, that's the wrong word, but he's up there talking to our staff all the time. And what do you think about this? And collectively, we just kind of put our heads together and come up with the best plan for the Raiders. But we're thrilled to have Clint and the coaching staff that he was able to put together too. We're off to a great start.
You going to hit the pool or anything later? Or are you too busy?
I actually have to hit the pool. I lost a game of golf to my kids the other day. I got 2 more on the drop slide left.
Okay, so 2 slide rides.
2 more slide rides. I did one. I paid one of my debts yesterday. I got 2 more as my son
Can
Tom.
we find the time to fit that in amidst all this?
My youngest Tommy will make sure that I fit the time in.
Can we go with you? I could jump in a pool right now. It's a little warm out here.
Yeah, you can take that jacket off, Peter.
We appreciate you. Yeah, Peter's toughing it out. John Spytek joining us here. Can't wait to see what you guys do in the draft next month, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Colin.
All right, so whoever lands Fernando Mendoza, whether it's the Raiders or not, will be hoping he follows a similar story to Joe Burrow. In Burrow's final season at LSU in 2019, he led the Tigers to an undefeated season en route to winning the Heisman, the title, and then being taken first overall. You see where I'm going here? Mendoza has already won the Heisman and title and is now hoping to hear his name first in 24 days in Pittsburgh. Spytek not giving it all away there, but either way, they are going to be spending some time certainly with Mendoza in the coming few days and continue to do their work as we welcome in Amina Kimes joining us as well. We'll get to Adam Schefter here in just a little bit. And Amina, when Burrow exploded onto the scene after limited college reps, would Mendoza being the day one starter, would you expect similar results as what we saw from Burrow?
First I'll say I think he will be the first overall pick. I think he should be the first overall pick. I think Fernando Mendoza's accuracy, intelligence, his size, all will translate at the next level. That said, the translation could take a second, and patience is what I would urge for Raiders fans for a couple of reasons, one of which is situation. Love the addition of Tyler Linderbaum, love that for the rookie quarterback. The rest of the offensive line does need some work, as well as the wide receiver core. And then schematically, you're bringing in a head coach, Clint Kubiak, who we know from his time in Seattle wants to put the quarterback under center, wants to target the middle of the field. I can count the number of snaps Mendoza had under center in Indiana on one hand. He also targeted the middle of the field at the 37th highest rate amongst FBS quarterbacks. So it's not that he's not capable of doing those things. I think he firmly is. It's just that it might take a second. And I think that's something the Raiders have to figure out this summer, especially as they also consider potentially adding another veteran quarterback.
Yeah, you look at this team and you also look at who's in that room. And Mina just mentioned it, the veteran quarterback. This morning we were at the coaches' breakfast. And Sean McVay's openly saying, hey, Kirk Cousins, come with us. Like, we've got a spot for you here. I think whoever is in that room is so important. You look at Caleb Williams, his first year. It was Tyson Bagent, and it was another young quarterback. And it was like he was kind of swimming in it. Last year they bring Case Keenum in, and they put a nice group around him, and he's a veteran. You need that veteran quarterback. I think that's a very important move to see who's going to be in that quarterback room with Mendoza. But to Mina's point, he will be the first overall pick. I think he should be the first overall pick. But we can't expect Joe Burrow. You can't just put that expectation on there just yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so much of it has to do with who's around him, which I do believe they did a lot to surround him with players that are going to give him success early on if he is the number one overall pick. He's going to be. All right. There's a lot of news happening here. There always is. There's a lot of action when it comes to things being voted on as we bring in Adam Schefter. And Adam, maybe one of the biggest stories right now, or the biggest questions, is who will be officiating these games when the league kicks off in September? What do we need to know?
Laura, there's a real possibility that we're going to be looking at replacement officials in the 2026 season. Talks between the NFL and the NFL Referees Association have broken off. The CBA is scheduled to expire at the end of May. Now, again, that could be posturing here in late March. We'll see if the two sides can figure out some sort of solution. But right now, the sides are far apart. They cannot come to an agreement on the compensation. They cannot come to an agreement on what it would look like. And as long as that continues to be the case, there's the real possibility that we will be looking at replacement officials the way we had back in 2012 when that became a huge controversy. Nobody wants that to happen. We'll see if they can figure it out. So far, not encouraging.
I will add, and Adam had an excellent tweet about it, that the NFL did put out a memo and said, hey, let's try to keep that, not be talking about it publicly too much while you're there at the league meetings. Well, then, of course, the head of the refs union, Scott Green, comes out and says, well, let me tell you our message point. You don't want this to be aired out publicly. You'd hope they get in a room and they could figure it out, but this could get a lot uglier than where we are even now.
They won't talk about it publicly, but we will. It's in
That's what
dire
it's
straits right
what
now,
we do,
and it's
we're
not
supposed
going
to.
well.
Well, and it's exceptionally important to the games. Like, you don't want anything like this determining outcomes of games. So either way, we'll keep an eye on that. We got a lot more from Adam as well. There's a lot of really interesting stories coming out of these league meetings that you coach of the Rams. We're so glad to have you, Coach, and appreciate you spending some time out here in the heat with us. Now, you've already been a part of some news today. The thing that you said earlier wasn't going to happen, didn't happen. That's already been canceled. We're going to move on from that.
There you go.
I want to talk about your own team, though, and Matthew Stafford making the decision to come back. I know that you're really close with him, but did you find out when all of us found out when he said it on stage at NFL Honors?
What do you think? Did it look like a good acting job?
You
Yeah, I know. You know what? I was just so excited that it was true again, because once he spoke it out into existence, then he's got to follow through. So I did have a good sense, though, Laura, and that was such a big deal because he's playing so well. But I think the thing that was really fun about last year is just he was so present, and he was really just enjoying the opportunity to compete. He elevated the people around him, and it was an impressive thing to be able to watch. And every time he's at the switch, we feel like we have a chance. And so for him to come back, that's the start of an exciting opportunity for us moving forward.
Another veteran guy is Davante Adams.
Yeah.
I thought you were very candid at the coach's breakfast. He said there's all this trade talk about A.J. Brown, and of course you've got Davante Adams. Davante Adams appears to be a Los Angeles Ram for as long as he wants to be, though,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's exactly right, Peter. And we've talked about it a lot. I think it's really important to be clear, open, and honest and direct. And there's conversations where you're always looking at opportunities to figure out what does it look like to put together the most competitive roster. Davante Adams being a Ram is what we feel like that looks like. And so you have conversations. When things are out there, I think it's important to be able to address it and acknowledge it and how we moving forward. He's a Ram. I love this guy. And what's cool is the tape guides a lot of our decisions, and he is still doing his thing at a really high level on the field. And excited for
How
year
real
two.
was that A.J. Brown stuff, though?
There's a lot of dialogue and discussions, and so there was real conversations. But ultimately, we felt like the best thing for the LA Rams was to be able to continue to move forward with Davante Adams, and he obviously did an amazing job for us last year. And I know the competitor he is, the rapport he and Matthew are going to continue to develop. I believe the best is yet to come, and I love the human, most importantly.
I know you saw the big deal for Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's now the highest paid wideout in the league.
I didn't see that, actually. When did that
Breaking
happen?
news, he's the highest paid wideout in the league. I guarantee you Puka Nacua saw that.
Yeah.
So where are we with the long-term deal for Puka?
You know what? He is a special player, and there's a lot of things. I have a lot of love for the human being, and going into 3 years, and there's some different things where the play has been unbelievable, and we're continuing to be able to learn and grow really in all parts of everything that we want. But what my hope and anticipation is that he's going to be a Ram for a really long time. Not going to put any sort of timetables on what that looks like for an extension. He and I have a really special relationship. We're in communication a lot, and so we'll see where things go. But he's a baller, and I'm happy for JSN. He deserves it. He did a great job, and he was instrumental in them, winning a Super Bowl this year.
The last couple of years, Jimmy Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett have been in that quarterback room with Matthew Stafford. Jimmy right now is still a free agent. And the name Kirk Cousins was mentioned at the breakfast. I thought you had a very interesting response. Is there a possibility we could see a reunion between the two of you guys?
Yeah, I think it's at least worth exploring. And he's going to have some options. He's got some teams where I think there's some opportunities for him. We still maintain a relationship. And if, when you look at it, you're always saying, okay, really happy for what Stetson's done and the evolution that he's had. But I think it is really important to be able to have somebody behind Matthew with the approach that we take in the offseason and into training camp that can operate our system at a high level. You're never going to get anybody quite like Matthew Stafford, but guys like Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo, I have a ton of belief in both of those guys, and I'd be really excited about either one of those guys if we were fortunate enough to have them on our roster.
You go back to 2013. And that coaching staff.
I know.
And the quarterback at the switch. Of course, you had Robert Griffin, but you also had Kirk Cousins.
We did.
So that relationship's real. Can we go through that 2013 coaching staff a little bit and the connection you guys all have to Cousins?
Yeah, it's wild. Obviously Kyle, Matt LaFleur, Raheem was on that staff, Mike McDaniel. There was a lot of special guys, and we positively pushed one another. And Coach Shanahan led the way for us. I'll tell you what meant a lot about, just Kirk and I's relationship, though, is it coincided with his first opportunity to really start full-time was when I first got an opportunity to call plays. Jay Gruden giving me a chance as an OC and really kind of putting his arm around me and helping me grow. But Kirk and I experienced a lot of kind of first things together. And so there was a real foundational relationship. His success and really the success that we were able to have as a team was instrumental in getting an opportunity to get to LA. So I'm forever indebted to him and guys like Jordan Reed. And
Jordan Reed, great tight end.
Jordan Reed was a great tight end. Oh, man, I still teach off of his choice and looky routes. He was unbelievable, and, he was a blessing to be around. But Kirk was awesome. He's special. He's played at a high level. He's a starting quarterback in this league. It's just a matter of what's he looking for, what the situation is, and if there is some interest in us. Kirk, come see us, man. I would love to have you.
Come on now. You guys have been in the F them picks mode, right?
Yeah.
And it's worked out really well. But how does it feel to actually be on the clock next month?
I'm excited about it. I think that it's a fun narrative, right? But when you have a chance to use the 29th pick to acquire a player like Trent McDuffie, not only the player and what he's done for 4 years, but then you have intimate knowledge about him as a human being. Those are rare opportunities you want to capitalize on. And then you still have the 13th pick, based on that trade that we made where, we would have felt good taking Terrence Ferguson with our pick last year. We were able to move back. Atlanta had interest in moving up to be able to take their player. And so we're excited about it. And I think what we've seen, Laura, is there's good opportunities to really be able to competitively build our team through the draft, through free agency, through trades. And we're going to explore every single avenue. What you don't want to do is get yourself in a situation where you're like what we were in 22. So that is a very important thing where, hey, no doubt about it, we're trying to compete for championships. We know how hard that is and how humbling this league is, but we also want to have a long-term vision. Hopefully, they won't kick me out of here too early. I don't think that's happening.
Knowing the clock is ticking, and last question here, I'm sorry, but knowing the clock is ticking on Stafford and maybe Devontae, is there a pressure to bring in one of these playmakers, an offensive player, at 13th overall?
Well, I think you can. Here's the thing. You can never have enough guys that move forward and rush the quarterback, and you can never have enough guys that can make plays with the ball in their hands. And so those are things that we always look to. What you do feel good about is the way that our roster is currently constructed. You feel like you can go with really a lot of different directions at 13 based on what unfolds in the first 12 picks. And so, if we stay pat, we'll see what ends up happening. But we are excited about it, and I'm excited about what it'll look like. We're going to add a quality player at 13. I do feel confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, the track record speaks for that. The 2 first-round picks you've had, Jared Verse and Jared Goff.
Yeah.
They've worked out pretty well.
Sure.
We appreciate your time here,
Yeah,
Coach
no,
McVay.
appreciate you guys having me on, letting me keep the shades on while you guys fought it out.
Listen, we're real, our pain tolerance is a a little higher than yours.
Yes.
That's what we're finding out
here. You guys are professionals. I'm just an amateur.
We grind.
He also looks a lot cooler than we do. Thank you, Coach.
No, definitely not.
No, definitely
Thanks for having me, guys.
Head coach of the Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer, joining us here. And I want to, first of all, give you a compliment because so far you're in the minority. A lot of our coaches that have visited us have had to wear sunglasses. They can't deal with the pain of looking into the sun and the TV lights. You apparently are tougher than most.
This is a true story, Laura. My father taught me as a young coach, coaches do not wear sunglasses.
I love this.
Wow.
Okay,
Please
so
expand.
so I was like, but you know, we're in San Diego, right? And I'm like, whoa, it's bright outside. He's like, the players have to see your eyes when you're coaching them.
Tomlinson can wear the tinted visor, but you can't wear sunglasses.
It's Marty Schottenheimer. So,
like
but literally,
that.
honestly, true story. I was like, okay, makes sense. You know, because when you're correcting or criticizing, they're like, I want to see your eyes.
Man.
So it's pretty cool. The other coaches I let wear, but I'll never change.
I love that.
I guess
do
I've
too.
built up toughness.
I was trying to give you a compliment. I did not expect such an incredible answer to come out of that question. That was absolute beautiful. Okay, how many times have you been asked about George Pickens today? Because we're going to ask you again. Where are we? I know. Where are we on George Pickens, a long-term deal?
Put the sunglasses on.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to look at me in the eye after
question,
this.
I tell you what, it's going to play out the way it plays out. GP was amazing last year. I really didn't know we were going to get, and when I got him, I just fell in love with him. The very first meeting, I have a basketball hoop in my office, and I beat him. You know, we played a little bit of best of three. Yeah, I beat him. He'll probably deny that, but from that point on, I just knew he just loves football, and he makes us better. And it'll play out how it plays out, but we expect him to be a Cowboy for a long time.
Last year around this time, it was Micah's contract, and it dragged on. And obviously now we're in a new offseason, and you guys bring in Rashawn Gary. All right, and when you get Rashawn Gary, you get this player that has shown flashes, but there might be something even more he can get to. How excited are you guys to have Rashawn Gary on the edge, and what can he bring to this Dallas defense?
Yeah, I mean, having played him for a number of years, going back to Seattle, playing Green Bay, and we played him, of course, last year. The guy is unbelievable. Number one player in high school, you know, whenever he graduated, going to Michigan, top 12 draft pick. We think he's still got room to improve. I think we've put together a heck of a defensive coaching staff. Christian Parker kind of spearheading that thing. But we're really excited, and we think he's going to, again, do a great job rushing off the edge. Mm-hmm. And we've got some pretty good players inside. There's a guy by the name of Quinnen Williams that might play a little bit for us, Kenny Clark.
Former teammate of his,
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And the cool thing for me was Kenny's reaction when he heard about the trade. He was so excited. And then we've got a pass rush consultant by the name of B.T. Jordan, who's incredible. And we took him from Denver. and they've been pretty productive the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
we're really excited.
2 picks in the first round. A lot of people have talked about defensive star power going your way and that being the picks, but you kind of said something earlier that maybe it wouldn't just all be defense. What's the thought process as you look toward the draft, and especially these 2 crucial picks in the first round?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We're excited to have that firepower. We obviously made moves to do that. We feel like we've set ourselves up to draft pure, to draft natural. There's still some holes on defense that we'd like to fix, but I wasn't there for it. But they love telling the story about CeeDee Lamb sitting there, and all of a
Falls to
sudden,
18.
all of a sudden he's sitting there at 18.
Also, the best draft setup in a yacht. That's pretty good.
Well,
It's
yeah.
fine. It's not
I've
bad.
been on the yacht. It's pretty nice.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I could do that for a year.
Yeah.
We're gonna draft pure. Our guys do a great job, from Jerry and Steve and Will McClay, his staff. They do a great job, and you never know. I was teasing there. You guys probably saw it, but our offense coordinator Clayton Adams, who I think is amazing, every night before he leaves, he just kind of knocks on my door and says, "Shotty, don't forget about me." Yeah. Hey, don't forget about me. I'm like, I got you, buddy.
You also look at the new defensive coordinator that you mentioned, Christian Park, comes from the Eagles, defensive backs coach, 34 years old, young guy. What is he going to bring to this defense that you're so excited about?
Well, connection first. I'm a big connection guy. I'm a people person. He's awesome. It's been really cool for me, Peter, to walk by and see the players coming into his office just to hang out, get to know him. He's got great conviction in what he wants to do. And I gave him a hard time when we first hired him because he was actually the 9th interview. The 9th Zoom we did.
That's interesting.
And I literally was like, man, I'm zoomed out. I don't know if I can do another one. And a couple of the guys were like, I do one more. This guy's supposed to be really good. And from the time we interviewed him, he just kind of kept wanting more. But I gave him a hard time. I said, hey, 34, huh? He said, yeah, 34. And I was like, I was 32 when I got my first job. So I gave him, I said, well, hey, you've been slacking, man. But he's great. And the connection piece, and then the versatility of coverages he's going to bring to us. I mean, this guy's an elite secondary coach, and we're just lucky to have him.
As you look toward next year, just almost bigger picture, what's something you want to change or you want to do a little differently?
I look at myself and the team and everything we do, Laura, from an after-action report in every phase. Things we did well, things we need to do better, and then how do we do better. And there's a number of things, but I referenced my father earlier, to be -9 in the giveaway takeaway formula. It's pretty impressive. We found a way to win 7 games doing that. We gave it away too much on offense. We didn't get takeaways. So we emphasized it last year. We're going to drill it more and do different things and have ball security circuits and ball disruption circuits. If we don't fix that number, then we're poised to repeat last year, and we're not going to do that.
I go back with Jerry Jones, and I think of all his great Jerry-isms, and it's whether it's circumcise the mosquito, one of my favorites. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to circumcise the mosquito. Does he ever drop some gems on you where you're like, I don't even know what that necessarily means, but then you start thinking about it, and you're like, no, I see the comment, I see the analogy, and okay, Jerry, I'm on the same path.
The funny thing for me is, like, I'm one of the newer guys around Jerry when you're sitting around with Will McClay and Stephen Jones, and so they've heard all the stories. So when Jerry starts telling a story, some reason his eyes always make
He's like, it's a new one.
This is great. Where's this going?
Stephen will grab his phone. He's like, yeah, I've heard this one 35 times, and but I love those stories, man. Growing up in an NFL household, man, like, it's like, that's Jerry Jones, and so he's great.
We're gonna have to find out when he starts cycling back around. It's gonna be like, who's he gonna look to?
Yes,
it may still be
there's
you.
no question.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up because we could talk to you all day, but we appreciate your time, Coach, and can't wait to see you down the road.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah, got it. That's tape to tape. Yeah, got it.
George Pickens' first season with the Cowboys could not have gone better. Pickens put up career highs in catches, yards, and touchdowns while playing every game, being named to the Pro Bowl for the first time and earning second-team All-Pro honors. We heard Coach talking there about the franchise tag situation for George Pickens. Is Adam Schefter joining us. Adam, what more can you tell us about where things stand there for Pickens and the Cowboys?
Well, Laura, he is not allowed to report to the Cowboys facility unless he signs his franchise tag. And he's not signing his franchise tag anytime soon, which means by the transitive property, if he hasn't signed and he can't be there, he's not going to be there until they have some sort of deal. So literally, unless the two sides can make some sort of progress, we're not going to see George Pickens during the offseason program. The chances are, as is the case with many of these situations, they come down to the deadline in mid-July, whether they can get the deal done in time or not. And that probably is going to be the case here, which means we could check back and have this discussion around the July 4th holiday. Until then, no talk of George Pickens. Table it
Good luck.
because we just won't see him.
Who are you
He's not
talking
allowed
to?
to be there, right?
I mean,
Peter?
I'm not tabling it. I'm going to keep asking you about
What are we
it.
talking about? You got that star on the helmet.
Well, here's the reality. It's like death taxes and talking about the Cowboys around July 15th when it comes to this deadline.
And let me also say this. When we discussed Micah Parsons at this time last year, we all operated under the assumption that he was going to sign a long-term extension, and that didn't happen. So some of these situations are difficult to predict. Dallas, which is very patient and very methodical, might be even more difficult to predict. But the one thing I feel confident in saying is that we won't be seeing George Pickens for a little while.
Can I say what the kids say? Adam just cooked.
He cooked.
He cooked.
Yeah, he did.
That was a cook.
It was like a fried egg on the sidewalk. It was so hot. Mina, so when you think about the reality here, I mean, there could be a world where George Pickens is no longer a Cowboy. They're obviously hoping to work this out. How important is he to that offense and what he brings to the table for what they're really going to try to do next season?
They got to keep him in the building. And my thinking on this has evolved, Laura, because at first I was like apprehensive about the notion of paying two quarterbacks a ton of money, thinking about the Bengals and all the needs on defense. But as I prepared for this draft and started watching all the receivers, and there are some really good ones, I found myself thinking, particularly as it pertains to a couple of them, this guy could be George Pickens. They have George Pickens, right? He would be wide receiver 1 in this class with a bullet. And so I think you look at offense that was top 5 last year, 5th in EPA per play, 4th in yards per play. You know what you've got. Yes, they need to make additions on defense, but they have ammunition in the draft to do so, and this is a good drafting team. So if I'm Dallas, I really try to make the bird in hand, which is Pickens, work out here, because you know that with him and Lamb and Dak Prescott, you have a top 5 offense.
It's funny because we spend all this time on the Eagles and their wide receiver, and then now it's like, all right, now we're going to turn the page from A.J. Brown. Now we're going to talk about George Pickens, all in the NFC East. Shotty was really honest with us. He wants George Pickens to be a Cowboy. George Pickens wants to be a Cowboy. He told us that great story about competing at Nerf basketball in his office, and the two of them have this great connection, and I think he rehabilitated his entire career. But money talks. And the Cowboys don't typically get these things done, as Adam said, in March and April. And with the case of Zeke and CeeDee Lamb and Dak, they always got done. Last year was the fly in the ointment because Micah didn't get done and things went haywire. And Micah was talking and he was stretching during the preseason game at practice or whatever it was. I would imagine they're going to be working very hard once that deadline approaches. In the meantime, they have the 12th and the 20th pick. And I wouldn't just say defense. If they do see a wide receiver that slips that they think is interesting at 12 or 20, I think they'll keep their mind and they'll keep their eyes open for that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it is interesting to see what they do in the first round. At 12 and 20, I mean, impactful picks. And let's get back to Adam with some more top stories. The Cowboys have been linked to Clemson's Avion Terrell as a potential draft pick next month. What happened with him today?
Well, Laura, he held a pro day at Clemson today, which is really interesting because he didn't participate in Clemson's pro day earlier due to a hamstring injury. And on the very first run today, during the pro day in which 29 NFL teams were in attendance, he aggravated his hamstring injury. So he did not get to work out. That's not how you want to head into the pro draft. Was projected as a 1. We'll still see if he winds up going as a 1, but that hamstring is going to be a question. Meanwhile, Dan Campbell talked today about the idea of this organization and team moving Penei Sewell over to left tackle. Taylor Decker obviously not going to be back in Detroit, not expected back. They need somebody to play left tackle, protect Jared Goff's blind side, and it certainly sounds like the all-world offensive lineman, Penei Sewell, may be the guy that winds up at left tackle. And despite the fact that other people said that the 49ers were ready to move on from Brandon Ayuk, that does not change. Of course they are. But here's what Kyle Shanahan said today. They're in no rush to move on because they want to try to trade him. They are going to be patient. They're going to wait for some team to offer something. I don't know how much they'll get back in return. But on draft weekend, there might be a team that's willing to flop picks. And all of a sudden, you have Brandon Ayuk included in that deal. I think that the 49ers feel like they paid Brandon Ayuk. They gave him the deal he wanted. And in return, they're allowed to do what they want because they hold his contractual rights. So if he wants to go sign with Washington and play with Jaden Daniels, that's fine, but they're going to have some say about where they will try to trade him, and we'll see if they're able to pull off anything here in next month's draft.
All right, you had hinted that not that long ago. So, Adam, the confirmation today coming from Kyle Shanahan. One of the best things about being here at the annual league meeting, We're back here on NFL Live. Glad you're with us today. And a lot of new faces here. The 2026 NFL offseason saw significant coaching changes. 10 new head coaching hires, including Jeff Hafley in Miami. Hafley and the new Dolphins GM, John Eric Sullivan, head to South Beach after spending the last 2 seasons together in Green Bay. The duo has already made several moves to the roster, notably moving on from Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill and signing Malik Willis. And we are now joined by the Dolphins' new head coach, Jeff Hafley. Thank you so much for being with us, Coach. I'm curious. We've talked to a few coaches who have been here many times. This is your first opportunity to be here and experience all of this. What's it been like for you so far here at the league meetings?
Oh, it's been great. Probably a little bit busier sitting in meetings than I thought we would be. We're in a lot of meetings. You're not getting to be outside and enjoy this weather, kind of like you guys aren't either, I guess.
It's 100 degrees, Coach.
It is, but it's beautiful.
It is.
Peter's powering through in his suit jacket.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
It is a little warm, but it's been nice. I mean, at least my wife and kids get to enjoy the pool and be outside and get around the other coaches' kids. And just to see all the coaches and be part of this, it's a cool deal.
Yeah, and you already have hit the ground running. Already a bunch of different transactions, but also some moves. And we're going to go backwards a little bit here. The first big move was the quarterback position, saying, goodbye to Tua Tagovailoa, who's been the quarterback here. What went into that decision and kind of pulling the trigger on that and then saying, all right, we're going to go to Malik Willis? What was the thought process there?
Well, I think if you talk to Sully and we discussed a lot of things and where we're at and what we're looking to do, a lot of things went into the decision with Tua. And then obviously we hit free agency and we both knew Malik pretty well. We were both with him for the past 2 years. I had a really good relationship with him, saw what he did when he played, saw what he did in practice every single day. He was our scout team quarterback, so I spent a ton of time with him.
Just think about that. You're the defensive coordinator, so first-team defense is usually playing second-team quarterback, right? So
every day.
So he was going up against you every day.
That was my guy. So I was telling him, this is what you got to do. This is what I want you to do. And there were some days he was completing too many passes.
He wants to
sometimes
compete.
He's running around too much. And we just developed a really good relationship. And then what he did every time he came in, it was fun to watch him. In that last game against Baltimore and the other times he'd come in, even the year prior, won a bunch of games. So we're excited to have him, and I can't wait to start with him on April 7th.
A lot of Dolphins fans really excited about the new regime that's coming in, and people are, though, looking at some of the trades. They're like, oh, man, I hope we don't trade away Achane or anybody else. What does that look like? Are you pretty much planning to stay pat where you are right now and hold on to the roster that you have, or could we see more action?
Well, I think it's probably a better question for Sully when he's making all those moves. But we talk about it all. Whether or not we make more or not, we'll see. The exciting part is we have a lot of draft picks, a lot of draft picks. We're up to 11 right now. I think we have 7 in the first 100 picks.
Second team in NFL history who have 7 picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, let's see if you can maybe find a way to get squeeze a couple more in there. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to take who we have right now because we have some really good pieces, and then add in those young guys and kind of build it and mold those guys and get them to play the right way and develop them over time. It's exciting. So we've been working really hard on the draft, and I'm excited for that day. It will be fun.
I know when you interviewed for the Dolphins, you preached culture and what you will bring as a head coach. When you're looking at all these draft prospects, and Laura just mentioned that you have 11 and then you have 7 in the first 3 rounds, what's a Jeff Hafley player? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm going to be unrelenting on how hard they play. When I go in the draft meeting room with him and we start watching tape, I told him I'm not going to back down. If a guy's not playing hard, if a guy's not tough, if a guy's not aggressive, if a defensive guy's not putting his face in there, and if a wideout's not going to block down the field, I'm going to let him know. I mean, ultimately, he's got to make the picks, and we have to have those discussions, but that's what I want it to look like. You want to find out if a guy loves football, turn on the film, see how hard he plays. And I don't want to hear about it. I don't want a coach to tell me that the guy plays hard and he loves football, he's competitive.
You can see that on film.
No, see it on tape because I see better than I hear, right? So show me. So I'm going to be unrelenting on that because as we build this thing, that's how it's got to be. I mean, I want to play harder than the team that's lining up across from us. And to do that, we need guys that are built the right way.
What would you tell Dolphins fans about bringing the Dolphins back to relevancy and making them one of those teams?
Yeah, I think the message hasn't changed. I mean, we're here to work. And it's not going to happen overnight. We're going to do everything we can to win every game we play next year. We are. I mean, that's just the competitor in us. I was with Kyle when he started off in San Francisco, and we were 0-9 that first year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I went through those years, and then the third year they went to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not promising a Super Bowl in year 3. But they built the right way. And now it's sustained over time where there really hasn't been a drop. And I think that's what we need to do. And there's other teams that have had those examples as well. So we're not going to take any shortcuts. We're not going to look for any, quick overnight fixes. We're going to build it the right way with the right people. So when we do go like this, it stays and continues to elevate.
Really cannot wait to see what you guys do in the draft next month. We appreciate you, Coach, for joining us here, and congratulations on everything. Excited to have you be the Dolphins head coach.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me on.
And Sirianni talking about plans for their offense, not knowing exactly what will happen with A.J. Brown.
Yeah, like I said, everything, AJ's an Eagle. Nothing's changed since last time we talked through everything. But you're going through all the process that you go through each and every year. It's a little different this year because, with a little bit of with the scheme change that we're making, you don't do as much of, hey, we're going to break down every single play that we ran last year, right? So it's just a little bit different of a process, but the process is, getting ourselves ready for OTAs, bringing the staff together, everybody learning the new pieces, the new job descriptions of what we need to do within it, and that's what we're focused on right now.
Earlier in the show, we heard from Sean McVay. He's talking about how much conversation they had about an A.J. Brown trade. That obviously did not happen. But, Adam, where do things stand now with the Eagles and a potential trade for their star wide receiver?
Laura, trade is still in play, but here's the issue. The Eagles would benefit by not making a deal until after June 1st against the salary cap. So if you're going to trade A.J. Brown, the time to do it would be June 1st or later. The issue is, between now and then, the only team out there right now that you could see making something happen would be the New England Patriots. Are the Patriots going to draft a wide receiver high? Are they going to re-sign Steph Diggs? Are they going to make a move at that position that solidifies that would nullify any type of need for A.J. Brown? Or does Mike Vrabel, who coached A.J. Brown in Tennessee, like him so much he doesn't care and he wants to add him anyway? New England would be the place to watch. June 1st would be the date to watch. There's nothing in place. We'll see if the two sides can figure out something then, if it still works for both sides.
I think what's tricky for Philadelphia, in addition to what Adam alluded to with the cap and the need to do this as a post-June 1st trade to maximize that, is that this is still a very good football team. If you look at the roster, they're still stacked. I know that last year was a down season in offense. They're betting that they can bounce back with some coaching changes. But realistically, this team should be in contention, which to me raises the burden for an A.J. Brown trade, right? Because if you do trade him away and you're not able to get a number one wide receiver this year in the draft, you're limiting your roster. But also, it's something you do have to consider, given that he is 28 years old, coming off of a down season. If a team offers a first-round pick, it would be hard to say no. So how I would look at it from Howie Roseman's standpoint is your phone lines are open. It is something you consider, but the bar is high given how good your roster is and given what A.J. Brown means to the team this season when they're still very much in contention.
And, Mino, I also want to spell something out. We're not contradicting ourselves by saying that they'd like to wait for June 1st, and then we're talking about getting a draft pick, because the truth of the matter is the Eagles already have 11 or 12 draft picks this year. They have all the draft capital they need this year. So any picks that they would be acquiring for A.J. Brown would be in 27 and 28 drafts they'd rather be in. So there's no rush to do this draft weekend. If an offer materializes, then great. If not, no problem. But the other element to keep in mind here also is if the Eagles pick a wide receiver early, high on, that may say to you they are going to be aggressive about trading A.J. Brown. And if they don't, they might be more open to keeping him.
They have the 21st overall pick in a wide receiver draft that is not just Carnell Tate and Lindsey. There's a long list of guys, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper. All those guys could be sitting there at 21. You draft them at 21, and then you could say, all right, let's look at our lineup now, and let's look at our roster. At the end of the day, the Eagles look at A.J. Brown as a luxury item. He's Prada. He's Gucci. The rest of the NFL, they might not look at him as Prada and Gucci and giving away first-round picks. We'll see what happens as far as the deadline approaches.
Yeah, that was a great clarification on what the timeline may look like. They're not necessarily trying to get a draft pick for this draft. They're looking ahead, drafts that we think in a lot of ways could be better.
Yep.
All right, one of the best parts of this event is the coaches' photo. It's an annual photo. We see all the coaches in the NFL get together, and inevitably there's going to be something weird happening, right?